Welcome to AmericanHunter.org. And this week I'm going to talk about one of the things that I did during the late summer to prepare for this late season hunting. And obviously it's not something you can do right now, but it's something that knowing about it now makes it more relevant so that hopefully you'll remember it when the time comes to implement this strategy sometime around the middle to the end of July, early August this next summer. We had a bad drought here in the Midwest, as most people know, and as a result of that, a lot of the food plots that I had planted in the spring just didn't produce. One of the biggest hits that we took was to our soybeans. And at the time the beans went in, there wasn't enough subsoil moisture or enough actually surface moisture to germinate the seed. So they sat there forever and then it stayed dry and they never really did get growing. So I had a bunch of food plots that only had 3 to 4 inch tall beans in them. And to rescue these plots, I went in sometime around the first part of August this past summer with a little broadcast seeder and spread Brassicas, which that can be a lot of different types of plants. You know, a typical one that people think about is the turnips, but there's also radishes and there's rape and there's a few other plants in that category. And the nice thing about the Brassicas is they will do very well with a midsummer planting with just a little bit of moisture. They don't need a full season of moisture like some plants do, like corn or beans. They can get by with a limited amount of moisture to get germinated. They'll grow aggressively, and they produce quite a lot of tonnage of food that comes on during this time of the year, into December, when really this is the time when a lot of the other things that the deer would be eating are starting to disappear. The farmers have harvested their crops. A lot of the waste grain is gone. The browse is pretty well dried up and stemmy. There's not much browse left. So to have something to come in that the deer are really attracted to right now makes a lot of sense. And the Brassicas continue to grow during the late summer, and then they hit a certain point where they're basically they stop growing, and then the deer aren't super attracted to them until it gets really cold. And there's something that changes in the chemical composition of the plants. They become more palatable the colder it gets. And what we find is they do hit them somewhat in the early fall, but they start to really hit them hard during the late season. So it's just a simple thing of broadcast seeding the Brassicas into my soybean food plots during the middle of the summer that's led to some really pretty good opportunities that we've got coming up here during the late season. And without those Brassicas, I don't know what we'd be doing. I mean, we would be kind of dead in the water right now with no food on the farm. The deer would be spread out all over the place, very difficult to hunt. In fact, they might even leave the farm and go someplace else to find food. So keep that one in mind. It's not something that you can put into effect right now, but it's definitely something that applies to the hunting that takes place during December and on into the late season. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I'll be right back here again next week with another tip at AmericanHunter.org.